We have to raise our boys and girls right the first time. And if you got your children worshiping Christmas, that's a coon being created. It is my obligation to try to transform you and your nothingness into a somethingness that can benefit African people. I do not hate the coon. I detest him, but I do not hate him, because it was the black community that gave birth to the coon. See, when we have problems in the community, we have to step back and ask ourselves, who gave birth to self-hatred? Who gave birth to the coon? Now, we know that the Neanderthal power structure gave birth to the first generation of coons. We know that. We know that the Neanderthal power structure created the disproportionality of power that exists between black and white. We know that. We know that they created the Willie Lynch syndrome. We understand that. So the Neanderthal gave birth to the coon, gave birth to post-traumatic slavery disease, gave birth to self-hatred. But may I ask you a question? Who rebirthed the coon? Who rebirthed the Willie Lynch? Who rebirthed post-traumatic slavery disease? You know who rebirthed it? We rebirthed it. The black man and woman rebirthed the coon. The white man gave birth, but you rebirthed. He created, and then you procreated. Your oppressor created the Negro, and then you procreated the Negro. You see that? Every time an African baby is born, after we pray over that beautiful African life and wish that baby well and wish their parents well, we then have to cross our fingers. We then have to cross that fingers, because that little beautiful African baby, that little boy or girl, that divine gift of supreme consciousness, in 20 years could damn well be a coon. In 30 years could damn well be a coon. I'm just giving y'all straight talk tonight. When we celebrate our high school graduates, and you know I speak at more graduation commencements than everyone else in the conscious community put together. But after we celebrate our high school graduates, you have to step back and ask yourself, how many of this graduating class of 500, how many of this graduating class of 300, how many of this graduating class of 1,000, how many of this graduating class of 5,000 are going to be coons? You have to ask yourself that. How many of these new PhDs and JDs and Psy.Ds and EDDs, how many of them are going to serve the power structure? We have to be honest. When I see our high school athletes, our football players and basketball players and track stars, you have to ask yourself, which one of these African children are going to go to college for 4 years, make it to the Olympics, make it to the NBA, make it to the NFL, and turn into a coon? Charles Barkley was once a beautiful little boy. He's a coon now. Shaquille O'Neal was once a beautiful little boy. He is a coon now. Do you understand? Sometimes we don't like to look at both sides. Sometimes we don't like to look at both sides of the coin. Frederick Douglass said it's better to raise strong children than to repair broken men. I am not interested in building a broken male reconstruction factory. I'm not interested in that. I don't want to fix broken men. Because once white power takes your spirit, you're done. You'll never be the same again. It's like a computer that's been infected with a virus. Once you take the spirit out, It'll never be the same again. We have to raise our boys and girls right the first time. And if you got your children worshiping Christmas, that's a coon being created. Your child is worshiping materialism, that's a coon being created. Your son can't wait to be the next football player, basketball player. He is a baby coon waiting to be birthed. I'm just being honest. Everybody seen the movie Alien, right? Saw the movie Alien, Sigourney Weaver. It's my favorite science fiction trilogy. Aliens 1, 2, and 3 are my favorite. The alien is a perfect symbol for the Negro. So you have this African boy or girl, this child is born, this beautiful African baby sent from the Most High God. Okay? Because we're the only people who actually birth children who have God's DNA. We are the only people who actually birth children who have God's DNA. We are the only people who birth children who actually have galactic genes within their body. So you have this beautiful African child. Now let's look at the alien. The alien comes, and the alien is a metaphor for white supremacy, white power. So the alien comes, and what does it do? It impregnates the Negro with a seed. It impregnates the Negro child with a seed, okay? And that alien that is going to impregnate the Negro child with the seed is the public school system. It's the public school system. It's the media system. It's the entertainment system. It's going to impregnate the Negro child against its will. Notice when you watch the Alien movie, nobody ever voluntarily opened their mouth and let the alien lay an egg. Nobody voluntarily opened their mouth to let the alien lay an egg. The alien forced its way. It forced the mouth open, and then it lays the egg in the brain or in the chest. Your heart and your mind, your soul and your intellect. So the alien lays the egg. White supremacy lays the egg within the black child's heart or mind or both. And then that egg germinates. It gesticulates. And after a certain amount of time, it brings forth a new creation. And while that egg is gesticulating and maturing within the mind and the heart of its victim, once the alien puts the egg within the brain or chest cavity of the victim, you don't know that they have an alien inside of them, do you? You don't even realize that there's an alien inside of the person. They still seem like a regular conscious African. They still have their kente cloth on. They still got their Hotep name. They still making videos on YouTube. They're still going to Africa. They're still talking black, right? And so for a few years, they still look like a regular African. And then all of a sudden, one day you sitting there with this Negro, this African, who had the alien's egg, the white supremacy egg, planted in their brain or chest cavity. And y'all sitting there, and all of a sudden, they start having these attacks, and their body is shivering, and the chest pop out, and this new thing comes out. This ugly little baby comes out, the African. And guess what that little thing is? That is the coon. That little alien that busts out once white supremacy laid an egg in the mind of the African. And then after a couple years, out of nowhere, the chest cavity busts out and that little ugly thing comes out and it starts screaming. That's the coon. That is the birth of the coon. And if you notice when you watch the Alien movie, once the coon busts out the soul of the Negro. Once the coon, go back and watch Aliens tonight, brothers and sisters. Once that little ugly thing pop out the chest, once the coon is birthed, the original Negro dies on the spot. Once the alien, which is the coon, once that new, ugly, dysfunctional, death-seeking creature is brought forth out of the body of the African, once the coon is born, the African dies. When you watch Alien, as soon as the alien is born, that original human dies. What is the point that I'm making? What is the point that I'm making? The point that I'm making is the coon and the African cannot coexist in the same body. One will live, one will die. The coon and the African cannot coexist in the same body. One will live, one will die. The coon and the African cannot coexist in the same body. One will live, one will die. Now let's...